What is happening, everybody? We're approaching week 7 of the NFL season. About to be breaking down the main slate here for DraftKings using the contest generator and the Sims tool over at Stokastic.com. I also have a FanDuel video up on the YouTube channel. So if you guys want FanDuel content, go check that out. If you want DraftKings content, you're in the right place. And even better, if you want both of them, we've got both those on the YouTube channel. The only thing that I ask of you is to do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you want to sign up for our football package, which includes all of the data that I'm about to be showing you here on screen, sign up using the link that we have below in the description box. But let's go ahead and look at the lineups that are built here. I built 10,000 of them in the contest generator, then simulated them in the contest simulator, so they played each other 40,000 times, and these are the results. These are the best projected lineups that I have for this Sunday's slate. Now, where we're going to start with is by looking at my number one overall highest projected lineup. And one thing I should note here, though, is that there isn't a ton that's differentiating the top lineup from the second best lineup or even like the fifth best lineup on this slate. This is definitely one where, at least as of right now, a lot of our exposures are fairly flat relative to some other slates. That aside, the number one overall projected lineup here is actually a Baker Mayfield stack with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin at running back. We have Kenneth Walker and Zach Evans. Other wide receivers in here, Devontae Adams, and then double tight ends, Mark Andrews, Luke Musgrave, and then the Ravens defense. So that is the number one overall projected lineup by simulated ROI. Now we'll go ahead and look at the exposures position by position and see who it is that we're getting to the most of at each spot. So if we go ahead and start with the quarterbacks, we're getting the most of Baker Mayfield. He's really the only quarterback that we have a significant amount of exposure to. And on one hand, I understand why that feels really uncomfortable. But on the other side, too, going back to how I was talking about how flat this slate is, in the top stacks tool that we have over at Stokastic.com, which is also based on simulations, the team that we have projected to score the most fantasy points for DraftKings this weekend is the Buffalo Bills, with about a 13% chance to be the highest scoring team, which is really flat relative to other weeks. And we don't have the Buccaneers that far behind them. The Buccaneers have a 9% chance to be the highest scoring team, but the team is considerably cheaper in Tampa Bay. So as a result, I do think Tampa Bay Bucs stacks make sense. Baker Mayfield, somebody we're overweight to here. Behind him, we've got double-digit exposure to Geno Smith, Patrick Mahomes, and Aiden O'Connell. O'Connell, just a price point play. He's so cheap at quarterback. At the time of recording this, I will note that we don't officially know who's starting at QB for the Raiders. It's going to be either Aiden O'Connell or Brian Hoyer. I'm under the assumption it's going to be O'Connell because he started the last time that we saw Jimmy Garoppolo sit out a game. So those are the QBs that we have double-digit exposure to. As for the ones that we are underweight to, coming in underweight to Sam Howell, a little bit underweight to Lamar Jackson and Jordan Love, but no real crazy stands here in terms of quarterbacks we're underweight to. Like even Lamar Jackson projected for 8.5% ownership. We have 5.5% exposure to him. Sam Howell, hardly getting to any of him right now, and he's projected for 7% ownership. If we go ahead and look at the running backs now, running backs we're getting the most of, it is by a mile, Kenneth Walker for this slate. 3/4 of our lineups have Kenneth Walker. It appears that Charbonnet is not going to play this weekend, and as is, it's already a good spot for Kenneth Walker, who's been a workhorse back for Seattle. So if we're going to take Charbonnet out of the picture, then Walker is going to look even better. Here's a piece of chalk that I think is pretty flimsy as of now, Zach Evans. Even though I'm getting to him right now as my second most rostered running back, I think there's a good chance for my own personal play that I might end up getting underweight to the field on Zach Evans once we get more news, because I'm not even convinced that Zach Evans is going to start for the Rams this weekend. They have Evans they could go to. They just signed Darrell Henderson. They also have Myles Gaskin in the mix. So you just need a lot of things to go right for Evans to hit at chalk this week. He needs to play well, but he also needs the opportunity, and I'm not positive either of those things are going to happen. So if we do find out definitively from McVay that Evans is going to be the starting running back and he's going to be a workhorse this week, then cool, I'll go fire him up. But I feel like I need a little bit more information. And at the time I'm recording this, it is a Friday afternoon. Other running backs we're getting to here, Jerome Ford, Josh Jacobs, and Rachaad White. I like all of those guys. Who are we underweight to at running back? Coming in underweight to Bijan Robinson, who, listen, he's very clearly talented, but I do think he's gone over-owned on a lot of these slates considering his price point and the Falcons offense. While it has all these great weapons, Ritter sucks as a quarterback, which has definitely limited the production of some of the skill position players. Also coming in underweight to the field here on Pacheco, Aaron Jones, and Najee Harris. Wide receivers now. At wide receiver, we are getting the most of Mike Evans, followed by Zay Flowers, then Kendrick Bourne. Bourne ended up being a really good contrarian play last week. I had a couple of lineups that really stood out amongst my other ones, and a couple of them, at least for a short period of time, that were live in the Millie Maker last week. And there were lineups that had Kendrick Bourne, who, as much as Mac Jones has struggled, he has relied on Kendrick Bourne as a safety outlet in some of these games. So we saw a pretty big effort from Kendrick Bourne, lots of targets, receptions, and yards last weekend. Don't mind going back to him at a cheap price point. So Evans, Flowers, Bourne, Keenan Allen as well. We've seen him take a little bit of a step back in terms of his production the last couple of weeks, but he's still a guy who is amongst the league leaders in receiving yards this year. Mike Williams, we know he's out for the season, and I think Keenan Allen's going to continue to be a big target in the Chargers offense without much competition for receptions or targets. And then some other pay-up options here. Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs. Adams definitely hurts him a little bit that Aiden O'Connell or Brian Hoyer is going to be starting at quarterback instead of Jimmy Garoppolo. But Adams was decent the last time we saw Garoppolo out and Aiden O'Connell start, and that was despite Adams missing about a quarter with a shoulder injury. He still had nearly 100 receiving yards. Wide receivers that we are underweight to here. Coming in underweight to Joshua Palmer. So our preferred option at wide receiver for the Chargers is Keenan Allen in the game that has the highest total of the week between the Chiefs and the Chargers. Underweight to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Underweight to Hollywood Brown. Underweight to Michael Pittman. Underweight to Terry McLaurin. Underweight to Wan'Dale Robinson. So where our exposures are most different from the field in terms of fade type guys, coming in well underweight to the field on a bunch of popular wide receivers that have double-digit projected ownership. Tight ends, we are getting to a good amount of Luke Musgrave, followed by Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, and then Mark Andrews. That's a lot of Luke Musgrave, but the cheap end of tight end really sucks for this week. In fact, most of tight end sucks every week. So the way I see this slate in general is if I have the ability to pay up for Travis Kelce, I'm going to do it. 27% exposure, cool, good by me. I'm happy having that in my portfolio of lineups. But in lineups where I don't have Travis Kelce, I'm most apt to pair my tight ends with the quarterback that's going to be in that lineup for the stacking purpose, or as a run back if the opposing quarterback is in the lineup. I think that's one way to also just make your tight ends correlate more in lineups, because this is not a great tight end slate once you get past Travis Kelce. Nobody crazy that we're underweight to the field to. Underweight to Logan Thomas, who ended up being super chalky last week. A little bit underweight to Higbee, but nothing all that significant. So that wraps up DraftKings. Don't forget there's a FanDuel video up on the channel as well. And if you guys haven't done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and good luck this weekend.